What do you know about comfort women?
Comfort women, I only know from the certain history about the era of from the Japanese era. So basically, comfort women is like Japanese men. They tend to get certain women from the Filipinos to do their desires so that they can be comforted.
Can you say that you know something about comfort women? Yes or no?
In terms of information, yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Today, I want to talk about the comfort women in the Philippines. It's a hard topic, but it's something we shouldn't forget, especially now that fewer people talk about it.
So first, what happened in our country? During the World War II, when Japan occupied the Philippines, many Filipino women were taken and forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese Imperial Army.
They later became known as comfort women, but that sounds almost gentle. What they experienced was far and anything but gentle. These were girls and women who were kidnapped from their homes, taken during military raids, and tricked with the promise of work or safety. Some were as young as 13 years old.
So how did this happen? So the Japanese troops set out comfort stations all over the Philippines. So these were the places where the women are trapped at least day after day.
Some stations were in garrisons, others were in private houses that the military took over. The women had no control, no protection, and no way to escape.
Families often had no ideas when their daughters were taken or if they were even alive. But when did all of this happen? This happened mainly from 1942 to 1945 during the Japanese occupation. Those 3 years were some of the darkest moments in our history.
Cities like Manila, Pampanga, Laguna, and many provinces saw widespread abuses. And even after the war ended, most survivors returned home, carrying their trauma quietly.
Why did it happen? The Japanese military claimed it was to manage and prevent other crimes. But it does not justify anything. It is a system built in violence and control. It stripped women of their humanity and it violated their bodies, their dignities, and their sense of safety.
So now, here's the part that is painful about me. A lot of young Filipinos don't barely know anything about this. Some may have heard the term but not the stories behind it. It's because it's not always taught deeply in schools.
Some textbooks give it a sentence or two, and because it is uncomfortable, people stop talking about it. Also, many survivors stayed silent for decades because they were scared, ashamed, or simply felt like no one would believe them.
As the years pass, the women who lived through this are getting older. Their voices are fading, not because their stories are less important, but because the generation that should be remembering them isn't always listening.
But remembering them matters. It honors the courage of the Filipino survivors who finally spoke up, even after years of silence. It reminds us what war can do to ordinary people and pushes us to protect the dignity and safety of our women today, so something like this never happens again. This is not just history. This is part of who we are as a country, and we owe it to these women to keep their stories alive. What you're seeing are comfort women amidst their tragedy. But what if we try to change their story? What if we give them more power and a chance to lead?
The story matters because it reflects not only the struggles of women during the wartime, but also the continued struggles for dignity, justice, and recognition.
It is a reminder of how unresolved wounds shape our nation's identity and our fight for human rights.
What if history had been different? What if instead of being silenced, these women had been empowered? What if the comfort women survivors of the Philippines stood not as victims, but as leaders? Imagine 1946, Philippines gains independence and survivors of comfort stations rise to say never again. They enter government, lead rallies, and push for laws protecting women and children.
If survivors had led, the anti-rape law could have been passed during the 1950s. The Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, it might have been written decades earlier, sparing the lives of women in workplaces and schools.
What if women had been protected decades sooner? Maybe mothers could have walked home at night without fear. Maybe daughters could have studied without being watched or threatened. Maybe women were allowed to walk freely without the fear of being abducted even at daytime. What if freedom had arrived in their time, not after their pain but before it?
The Safe Spaces Act, which protects women from harassment, could have been a reality for our mothers and grandmothers. Their voices could have turned trauma into protection and pain into progress.
Imagine a world where women live boldly, safely, and fully. The voices of the women before us could have prioritized fellow women. Maybe, just maybe, the Philippines could have had a better history, a more peaceful one where women's capabilities are maximized by leading and planning. With survivors as leaders, every Filipino child could have grown up in a country that said your body is sacred, your voice matters, your life has value. Instead of being remembered only as victims, the comfort women could have been remembered as the mothers of women's rights in the Philippines.
But this is not what happened. Instead, these women were forcibly silenced for half a century. But when they finally used their voices during the 1990s, they finally shook the world.
They could have not just been part of a revolution, a side quest, a woman behind a man's success. Instead, they are the success. They are the revolution.
They did not hold government seats or pass laws, but they led through courage, by breaking silence and demanding justice. Their bravery shaped our present-day women's rights movement.
Today, the echoes of history remain. Women are no longer silent. They're senators, educators, activists, and defenders of human rights. But the struggle for full empowerment is not yet over.
When we look back at this chapter of history, we do so through the voices of those who lived it and survived it. Our understanding of the experiences of the comfort women, our Lolas, does not come from a single document or one official source. It comes from a tapestry of memories stitched together through survivor testimonies, oral histories, wartime records, and decades of scholarly research. The testimonies of the Lolas, shared courageously in interviews with historians, journalists, and human rights organizations, form the very heart of this narrative. Their voices, often silenced for years, allow us to see not only the brutality they endured, but the extraordinary strength they carried long after the war ended. These personal accounts remind us that history is not abstract. It has names, it has faces, it has pain, and it has resilience. History is not just what is written, it is what is remembered. It is what is fought for. It is what a community chooses never to forget. Because remembering them is not only an act of history, it's an act of justice. History denied them the chance to lead, but their courage planted the seeds of every protection women have today. Every law against violence, every step toward equality, carries the echo of their suffering and their strength. They may not have seen justice in their lifetime, but their stories continue to shape ours, reminding us that progress is built on the bravery of those who refuse to be silenced.
The greatest way to honor them is to not only imagine what could have been, but to fight for what still can be.
History cannot be changed, but the future is ours to write. The questions remain. Will we allow silence to continue? Or will we empower women to shape the Philippines we dream of?
To all women out there, I encourage that we continue to break stereotypes. We have proven time and again that if men can do it, I can, women can, we can.
Isigaw mo sa